Alright, so we have the rear end at ride height now, and that is measured underneath here. If you put the bump stop on right there, I haven't got it all cinched down and everything, you see the bump stop hanging down there. From the top of the bump stop bracket there, not counting the rubber part, to the axle should be about 4 3/4 inches, which is what it is. Now that just happily lucked out here that with the axle up on jack stands as high as they will go and the car on jack stands as low as it will go, that's ride height, so that worked out nicely. The RideTech instructions call for making a little jig that you can attach to the bump stops, and they say use a metal bar and weld it to the top of the axle housing to hold everything at ride height there, but we don't have that problem here because everything's sitting at ride height as it is. So all we have to worry about is the rear end moving this way and twisting. So we still may end up having to put something there to lock it in place, but hopefully not. So now that part's done. So lower control arms go on now. So these go in with your existing front leaf shackles. Pull that off. So these guys, you notice, are offset inward to give you more tire clearance, as opposed to a leaf spring that would come out to about here, I guess, right? So that gives you an extra 1/2 inch or more of clearance there for your wheels. So make sure that it's pointed toward the inside of the car there. So we're going to put those in now. Alright, so here's a place where we are deviating from the norm. So typically your rear end would have the leaf spring center mount bracket here with the U-bolts, and they supply this bracket here that you bolt onto that, and the lower control arm bolt to that. Since this was a new rear end, I didn't have to order it with leaf spring mounts because I'm not having any leaf springs. And RideTech sells this piece right here. You have to look around for it on their website. I'll try and put a link in the description for this. It's just basically a 4-link bracket. But this takes the place of this piece and the leaf spring mount. So you just weld this directly to the rear end, and then you have this nice pretty looking piece of assembly here instead of all of this ugliness, which I didn't like. They said this was probably not going to be the right radius for my rear end, but it actually fits perfectly. So whatever size that is the right size. So I don't have to do anything, just bolt it up. Alright, sorry, it's really cramped up under here, but we'll give you the idea of what's going on. So we got the rear end centered side to side, fore and aft, the best we could, set to pinion angle, and then I tacked this bracket in over here, this bracket in over here. Then after that, then the upper control arm bars go in here, and then you have to tack these on, and these little guys will go up inside here to get around to that. Get the rear end out of the car to do that. We don't need to do that here. So these guys are just tacked. The welder I have is barely make a dent in this metal, so that's part of the reason why I'm sending it back to Mosier to have them do it. And so the welds focus. So the welds will look like that instead of my ugly ass weld. But anyway, so what we found was passenger rocker panels at 0 degrees level. Driver's side was at 2 degrees down. So we split the difference and said 1 degree down. So we set the pinion angles for 2 degrees up, which we'll show you here in a second. Of course, if you use the angle finder with the magnetic side, the needle doesn't move, it gets stuck. Classic. So hopefully here, if I didn't screw this up, that should be at 2 degrees. So the 2 degrees up plus the 1 degree down on the car gives you 3 degrees up, if I did that right. So all the tacking and everything's done, so we can take the rear end back out now, and then I can put a little more welds on there to make sure the stuff's stable. And where we ended up with the wheels for the moment is we have 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch spacer. So I have a 3/8 inch gap space there. We're still hitting here as we expected, and we're hitting right here, but not terribly, as you can see. So a mild lip roll right there will take care of that. And if we leave the wheels where they are, which I'm not, I'm not going to have 3/8 inch spacers on it. It'll either be a quarter or none, because we are going to have to clearance this seat belt hump back here. I'll show you how much clearance we have. You can get a sense for how things are here. So there's the seat belt mount right there, and here's how far the hump is sticking out. So we need to get this back about probably level with that edge back there to be safe. So that the wheel comes out to here. So this is going to be real tight right there. So pretty much going to have to go flat all the way to the edge of that washer nut thing right there. Will give us about 3/4 of an inch probably, and then with the spacer taken out, that's a 1/2 inch left. So hopefully we're in good shape. So that is that. I'm going to check the rear end right now. I'm going to take the jack stands off one side and raise and lower it and make sure nothing's binding. It might be hard with these wheels in here, so we'll see. Maybe we'll pop these wheels off. Yeah, we'll pop the wheels off, and then see how that, make sure everything moves properly in there. All right, well, we busted it out today. We actually got all this done in one day. It's got all the brackets on here. The lower control arms, upper control arm brackets, got all that on. My welder, MiG 135, cannot do this metal. As I have clearly found out here, I'm just barely getting enough penetration on here to hopefully hold these brackets in place until they get back to Indiana. I hope so. I hit them with a hammer and they didn't fall off, so I'm hoping they'll survive shipping like that. But it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that worked out. Did we run into any trouble under there? Not really. I think this bracket is a little cockeyed this way, so I'm going to put a piece of tape on there and make a note on there for Mosier if they think that's a big deal. Maybe they can center that up for me, because just bust these welds out and put it into the right place. These things are okay here. This one's good. I just hope I got all the measurements and got everything in the right place. So we got lucky, as I showed you in the video, that the rear end basically wedged itself up in there with the tires, so it didn't really want to move, which was nice. But we checked and checked and checked and checked over and over and over again. So I should have shown you the checks we were doing. But when we had the wheels up in here, I was checking from this body line right here to the edge of the tire, which is just a little under 2 inches on both sides. And then we ran a level down from here and measured from the rim out. That was 1 1/8 inches on each side. And so we could check and make sure it wasn't going this way. Checking these two sides here, made sure it wasn't twisting this way. And then of course the pinion angle too. So basically at each step, you put one bracket on, check everything, put the next bracket on, check everything. Basically as each bracket's going on, you're going through and checking all of those things, and hopefully at the end of the day we got it all right. The upper control arms are still attached to the car. Here, these are adjustable, so we can move, theoretically, can change the pinion angle back and forth a little bit. We can't really move the car or the rear end this way, so hopefully it's straight. If not, well, it's going to be what it's going to be, because I can't really do anything about it. But anyway, that's it. So tomorrow we'll get this thing all boxed up as best we can. I'll call Mosier and arrange pickup. Probably UPS is going to pick it up. They dropped it off. Send this back to them and have them finish up all the welds, get it painted for me, and then get it back. And I'll find out once I go through that process how much they're going to charge for doing all those welds and stuff. I didn't talk about that with them before. I don't care. Like I said, I don't have the equipment to do the welds, so it's just fine by me to have them do it. So anyway, that's it. This should be off in the mail in the next couple of days, and then it'll probably be a week and a half, 2 weeks before we get it back, and then we're ready to drop it in the car and it's done. I didn't show this as well either, but for safety's sake, as I'm always talking about in California here, I don't trust jack stands. So we're trying to find something to jack the car up on. And this ended up working perfectly. Basically is my rear bumper and one of my friend's old Camaro tires that he's not using anymore. wheels, not just a tire, the whole thing, and that ended up actually being just about right. So that's good. All right, so that is going to do it for today. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment and thank everybody for all the measurements that you guys did, especially Mark and Roger. Roger climbing around under the car with the angle finder, and Mark for actually measuring the engine and the rocker for me and everything. That was invaluable. I could not have done this without that. I appreciate everybody's comments that was chiming in on this. I think we got it all correct. You know, time will tell. Once the car is on the ground, we'll be able to really check that pinion angle more accurately. And then, like I said, there is a little fine adjustment there on the upper control arms that hopefully we can move it if we need to. But I think we're good to go. So that's going to do it for this part of the rear end saga. And then, you know, we're off to probably working on the firewall again while we're waiting for the rear end to come back, and then we'll take it from there. But anyway, it's not as hot this week. It's still pretty darn hot. It's miserable in here without the fan on. So I've had the fan on most of the day. But anyway, you can see it's quite a mess in here. We had all kinds of stuff going on in here today. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I will talk to you guys later. And once again, thanks everybody for your help on the measurements and stuff. Super appreciated.